Welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today I am working on 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life series number 19. Today's sketch was created by Gloria Montrose. If I can find her social media links, I will have those listed down there for you below. And that also brings me to the second hop I am participating in today, and that is the Mad About Mini Paper Pads hop. And I have Nature's Haven sitting here, and I've got the 6x8 paper pack here. I've got a photo of myself. This is a scrap from a previous layout, actually a layout I'm pretty sure I did of myself again. It's 4x6, so I may be using that. I've got most of the Nature's Haven product sitting here for me to make decisions with. And hopefully I can make some good decisions today. This is the base paper that I pulled, and I want to talk about this sketch. I am going to be using part of this base paper to fill in this stuff here. So I've got some stuff going up here, and I will increase on that, and then there's a little bit of stuff going here, and I will increase on that. You've got a rounded area here, and could be a 4x4 square photo. My photo's 4x6, and I'm not going to trim it down. But I have all of the product pieces here, and I'm hoping to get some of this stuff used. Looks like I have a couple of duplicates laying here. Laser cut elements, fabric tape, rub-ons, and the puffy stickers. I pulled in some dies. I'm not sure I'm going to use these, but the reason I pulled them in was in case I did decide to use them. I will be cutting anything out of the 6x8 paper pad. The only 12x12 piece of paper on this layout is going to be my background piece, and that is the rules of the Mad About Mini Paper Pad hop. I am also trying out a brand new ring light. I'm hoping that this will keep my phone a lot more level than the other one. I was really struggling with that off and on, so I'm hoping that that will take care of that issue. I'm going to pause, we're going to get started, and I'll be right back. All right, so right off the bat, I decided not to use my dies, and I brought in a stencil and a couple of the colors of the new Ranger 49 and Market inks. They are Strawberry Pie and Mint Chill. I'm also only going to be using one piece of the 6x8 paper. I fussy cut these two stumps here out very loosely. There's a lot of little fiddly pieces there that I didn't want to cut off, and so I only cut around them a little bit, and I'm going to use those to kind of layer around those other stumps that are on the background paper, and I'll add some more things to it as we go along. So, and then for the other bit of this pattern paper, I'm actually cutting off some of the edges so that I can use those as the layering pieces, mimicking what's in the sketch. I know you could take that sketch absolutely literal, and you could just make that upside down L in that upper left hand corner. That is not what I'm going to do. I am going to layer some papers. This layout gets mighty busy after a bit, but that is okay. So the rest of this piece of pattern paper, I'm scuffing up the edges with my Some Assemblage Required Distress tool, and I'm going to use that as part of my photo mat. Same thing with that pink dot scrap that I have in my hands. I'm scuffing up the edges of that, and that is going to be part of my photo mat as well. My whole goal is to make this design kind of point towards my photo. I will admit that having all of this stuff out like this, my layout gets very full and very busy kind of quickly, but here is what I'm thinking right now. I have the rest of that 6x8 paper that I was able to kind of leave the floral bit along the edges, and that's going to kind of poke out there. Now I'm scuffing up the edges of all of the papers that I am going to be layering around up that upper left-hand corner of my layout. And I'm also going to bring in part of that green dot branding strip that's down there. That is the branding strip from my background paper. Again, I'm trying to use the design that is already there in some shape or form so that it doesn't add in other elements. Like I said, this paper is beautiful on its own, and you can definitely layer up and add things as you go. And so that is what my goal here is, just to kind of add some of the layers. I'm even going to cut down this branding strip and get my Tim Holtz tool to distress it. The reason I don't use the Some Assemblage Required tool is I tend to tear up the paper if I'm using a paper that is this thin. And so I don't want to tear it up. I want to just distress it. I know that some of you just use scissors to do that. I actually really like the tools. I don't do well with scissors, and I'm very prone to cutting my fingers. So I try to avoid that at all costs. Okay, so now I am going to kind of dig through these laser die cuts. There is this circular element made out of, you know, the floral and fauna that are included in this layout, and because that sketch has that circular piece, I'm going to include this down below my layout. I also want to include that little wagon and the fox because they're adorable. I've got a tiny butterfly there and some phrases that I'm kind of going to move around quite a bit before I decide where they're going to go. I'm going to pull out a couple more mushrooms to layer up near that set of stumps that I fussy cut out of my 6x8 paper pad. And as you can see, I used up that entire piece. Normally when I do a layout for Mad About Mini paper pads, I end up with a bunch of scraps from the 6x6 or 6x8 papers that I use on the layout. Well, this time I actually used them all, so there's going to be no scraps at all, which is kind of nice. I'm bringing in some of these little pieces here that are meant for layering, and I'm going to just continue to build that L, upside down L element up there in that corner. I'm also going to find this little green gingham tab I bring in, and it's going to kind of finish up my layering up top. I hope that it looks good. As I'm sitting here, I'm trying to just play along with it a little bit, get it in there, replace some of those other layers that I stuck in there. Try not to completely cover up. It's kind of like a recipe card, which is really, really cute and a great thing to use for layering pieces, and I really like that. I do stick a phrase of some sort up there on that tab. And yep, right there, I stick that little puffy sticker tab there, and I'm going to bring the other phrase down towards that circular element. I'm looking for a title right now, and I end up using Capture the Moment, and I'm just kind of sticking that on here, and I'll move that little phrase bit yet again. I decided to pull in a piece of the puffy sticker zigzag stitching. That gets moved several times as well as I am trying to build this layout. I just want things to kind of make sense if at all possible. I am going to look through my laser elements, and this is where I realized I had actually already had an open pack of laser die cuts. It is what it is, so now I have two open ones. It's fine. Everything's fine, right? I'm looking for a frog, I think, here. Or, nope, I found this little branch with the hanging mason jar lights that I thought would look really great up there in my upside down L element, and I'm moving that zigzag puffy sticker yet again. Note also that I'm using the magnets from my Glassboard Studio to help hold down things so that as I build this layout, things will stay in place as much as possible. I did not scuff up my tabbed recipe card, so I'm going to go ahead and scuff that up a little bit and get that put back underneath. And eventually I take everything off or apart so that I can add some stenciling on here, and that's why I still have that stencil sitting there, because I do want to make sure that I put some stenciling on here. Could I have done without the stenciling? Sure, but hey, when you have such beautiful stencils and some pretty inks that match, why not? Why not stencil? I'm pulling out one of my paper piercers to poke out the holes on this little piece. It's like a torn notebook piece, which is kind of cool, and I'm just poking out the little circles because they didn't rub out. Usually they rub out, these did not, and I'm gonna go ahead and adhere that down under there. And I'm doing this so that when it's time for me to do the stenciling, I don't lose the places. The magnets work really well, but you know, sometimes it is still better to just go ahead and glue things down as you can. And that's what I'm doing here, is I'm gluing things down. Now I'm going to remove my circular element and go ahead and bring in that stencil. And I'm going to use my desk vacuum to get up all those little pieces that fell as I was distressing, as well as the circles from that piece, that layering piece. I really like these inks. These are, of course, new on the market, and if you like inks that react to water, this is a great set for you. They do react differently than the Distress inks. They maintain their vibrancy, where the Distress inks do dilute a little bit when you use them. So that is why I went ahead and I bought them. I started with only a few of them, but I ended up buying all of the ones that are available for now. And I've used almost all of them at least once so far since I've had them. I've only had them just a little, maybe right at a month. So this photo was taken in January of 2017. This is just a few weeks before I went through a very big diet change in my life. I have a herniated disc in my back, and at the time of this photo being taken, I was in pain management. I had gone to a pain management clinic. I had 2 corticosteroid shots. The first one worked. The second one not only didn't work, it made things worse, and I refused to get another one. I did some research, and I read some research about, you know, that the food you eat can cause inflammation, and that is not something that I had ever heard before. So I definitely wanted to try this just to see, and I was in enough pain at this point that I was willing to try just about anything. And so that's kind of what I was going on here. And so I'm capturing the moment of this before time, and I am going to be telling this story throughout that particular album as we go. I'm still playing around with pieces here and there, grabbing things, looking at different things, moving things around, making sure that I have everything that I need, and then I'm gonna pause here in a minute and do some gluing. All right, I got this layout completely finished. I'm pretty pleased with the way that this turned out. It's a little bit on the busy side for me. There's a ton of layering. I added some twine to the balloons, and then I added a tag for my journaling as well as some twine there. I did manage to get that upside down L layer there. I think that mine is more layered versus separate like it shows on the sketch, but I really like how that turned out and how it helps to continue to draw your eyes to my photo and the story that I'm trying to tell. I did use some foam adhesive in various places. I did add a frog down there at the bottom. If you know me, you know that I adore frogs and toads, and so I squealed when I saw those little frogs, and I wish I could have like a bunch more of them because they're just adorable. I want to thank you for coming to my channel today. I really appreciate those of you who take the time to like, comment, and or subscribe to my channel. If you are new here, I would love to have you as a subscriber. I try to put out 3 to 4 videos per week. Again, I want to thank you for being here. Make sure you check that description box below for the playlists and things for this hop. You have a great day. Bye.